3 hours ago, Nyah Sinclair was just a tired 27-year-old Jamaican nurse trying to get home after a 14-hour shift. She opened the wrong back door in that pouring rain and slid into the back seat of a sleek black Maybach that wasn't hers. Inside was Ryu Seong-woon, the most feared Korean Mafia boss in the city, a man they called the Shadow of Soul. He didn't shout, he didn't threaten. He simply looked at her with those ice-cold eyes and said one sentence that changed everything. "You just saved my life, and now I'm never letting you go." Because in the 30 seconds between her entering that car and the bullets that shattered the windows, Nyah had instinctively shielded a man the entire underworld wanted dead. A man who had spent years building walls no one could penetrate. Now the most dangerous man in the city has decided that this ordinary nurse from the wrong side of town belongs to him. He says he'll protect her with his empire, but the real question is, who's going to protect her heart from him? This is how one mistaken car door turned an ordinary woman into the obsession of a Korean mafia king. Chapter 1. The Wrong Door. It was just after 11:47 p.m. when Nyah Sinclair stepped out of City General Hospital, her white nurse's scrubs damp with sweat and the smell of antiseptic still clinging to her skin. At only 27 years old, Nyah had already worked a brutal 14-hour double shift. Her feet ached, her back burned, and her mind was exhausted. She was still paying off $28,400 in medical debt from her grandmother's long battle with cancer. Rent was 3 months behind, $1,850 a month, and the eviction notice on her apartment door was now written in red. She whispered to herself in her soft Jamaican accent, "Just keep going, Nyah. You've carried heavier than this." The rain was pouring hard. She missed the last bus by 4 minutes. Soaking wet and too tired to wait for the next one, she remembered she had ordered an Uber 15 minutes earlier. Spotting a line of sleek black cars parked along the side of the hospital, Nyah rushed toward them, her nursing bag heavy on her shoulder. She saw one car with tinted windows and quickly opened the back door, sliding inside with a deep sigh of relief. The inside of the car was nothing like an Uber. Soft black leather, the faint scent of expensive cologne and warm mahogany, a thick partition separating her from the front seats. This was not her ride. Before she could reach for the door handle, a deep, calm, and dangerously smooth voice filled the back seat. "You have exactly 10 seconds to explain why you're in my car." Nyah froze. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She turned slowly, and that's when she realized a man was sitting in the far corner of the back seat the entire time, watching her in silence. He was young, maybe 30, strikingly handsome in a sharp, lethal way. Jet black hair, sharp jawline, and eyes like frozen steel. Even in the dark, power radiated from him. I'm so sorry," Nyah stammered, her Jamaican accent thickening with fear. "I thought this was my Uber." "I'll get out right now." The car suddenly accelerated, and then the gunshots started. Bullets shattered the rear window in a deafening explosion of glass. Nyah screamed as shards rained down on them. Without thinking, she threw herself across the back seat and covered the stranger with her body, shielding his head and chest as more shots rang out. The car swerved violently. The driver barked orders in Korean. More gunfire. The vehicle sped up, tires screaming against the wet road as it escaped the ambush. For several terrifying seconds, the only sounds were the rain, the roaring engine, and Nyah's own ragged breathing. Then everything went quiet. Slowly, the man beneath her shifted. Strong hands gently but firmly gripped her arms as he lifted her up. Nyah found herself staring directly into the eyes of the most dangerous man she had ever seen. Ryu Seong-woon. He studied her face in silence, his expression unreadable. Rain and pieces of glass glistened in her dark curls. Her nurse's uniform was now torn and streaked with blood. Not all of it hers. "You just risked your life," he said, his voice low and intense. for a man you don't even know. He paused, eyes darkening with something she couldn't name. Do you have any idea what you've done, Nyah Sinclair? Chapter 2. The Shadow Claims Her. The Maybach tore through the rain-slicked streets like a bullet. Inside, Nyah Sinclair sat pressed against the leather seat, her heart still hammering from the gunfire. Glass fragments sparkled in her dark curls and on the floor around her. Ryu Seong-woon watched her in silence. His driver, a sharp-faced Korean man named Min-ho, spoke quickly in Korean from the front. Ryu answered in the same low, commanding tone before turning his attention back to Nyah. You're bleeding, he said. Nyah looked down. A shard of glass had cut her left arm. She hadn't even felt it until now. I'm fine, she replied, her Jamaican accent soft but firm. I'm a nurse. This is nothing. Just let me out at the next corner. I won't say anything to anyone. I swear it. Ryu leaned forward slightly. Even in the dim light, his presence filled the car. At 30 years old, he already moved like a man who owned the city. You don't understand, he said quietly. Those men saw your face. They saw you protect me. You're marked now, Nyah Sinclair. The car finally slowed and descended into a heavily guarded underground parking garage beneath a sleek skyscraper in the heart of the city. Nyah was gently but firmly escorted out. 2 more armed men in dark suits appeared instantly. She was led into a private elevator that opened directly into a sprawling penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the glittering night skyline. The space was luxurious but cold. Black marble, minimalist furniture, and several large monitors displaying live security feeds of the city. Ryu removed his tailored black suit jacket. Nyah's breath caught when she saw the blood on his white shirt. He had been hit, a graze along his side. You're hurt, she said automatically, stepping forward before catching herself. Ryu's lips curved into the faintest smirk. Sit, he ordered softly, gesturing to a large sofa. Let me see your arm first. Nyah hesitated, but eventually sat. Ryu brought over a sleek medical kit and began cleaning her wound with surprising care. His hands were steady, almost gentle. After a long silence, Nyah spoke. I have to go home. I have rent due. I have shifts at the hospital. I can't just disappear. Ryu looked up at her, his dark eyes intense. You're not going anywhere tonight. My men already checked. You're 3 months behind on rent, $28,000 in medical debt. Those men who attacked me tonight will be looking for the woman who was in my car. Staying here is not a request, Nyah. It's the only way you stay alive. Nyah's stomach dropped. You looked me up already? Ryu didn't deny it. He finished bandaging her arm and stood up, towering over her. I protect what belongs to me now. He walked to a side room and returned with one of his own crisp black shirts. Change out of those wet clothes. You can use the guest room. Nyah took the shirt, her fingers brushing against his. A small spark passed between them. As she stood, Ryu stepped closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head up to meet his gaze. You protected me without knowing who I am, he said, voice low. Most people would have run. That mistake you made tonight, it wasn't a mistake. It was fate. And I don't fight fate. Nyah's heart raced. She swallowed hard and whispered, I think I just walked into the devil's house. Ryu's lips curved into a small, dangerous smile. Then welcome home. Chapter 3. The Devil's Wound. Nyah Sinclair couldn't sleep. She lay in the enormous guest room of Ryu Seong-woon's penthouse, wearing nothing but his oversized black shirt that reached mid-thigh. The fabric smelled faintly of him, clean, expensive, and dangerously masculine. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw broken glass and heard gunshots. Eventually, she gave up. She padded barefoot through the silent penthouse toward the kitchen for water. That's when she saw him. Ryu Seong-woon stood alone on the wide terrace, rain falling around him. He was still in his black dress pants and white shirt, the sleeves rolled up. One hand held a phone to his ear while he spoke in rapid, ice-cold Korean. His other hand gripped the railing so tightly his knuckles were pale. Nyah hesitated, then picked up a glass of water and a fresh bandage from the medical kit. She stepped out onto the terrace. Ryu ended the call immediately when he noticed her. "You should be sleeping," he said, voice low. "So should you." She held out the water. "And that wound on your side needs checking again." He stared at her for a long moment, as if no one had ever spoken to him that way. Finally, he took the glass and let her approach. As Nyah carefully changed the bandage, she asked softly, "Why do you live like this? All this power, but you stand out here alone in the rain." Ryu remained silent for a while. Then, for the first time, he spoke about himself. "I wasn't always like this," he said quietly. 8 years ago, I had a younger sister. She was only 19, bright, full of life. One night, a rival faction ambushed us. They were trying to kill me, but they got her instead. His voice didn't break, but Nyah felt the weight behind every word. I couldn't protect her. After that, I made sure no one would ever get close enough to be used against me again. I became the man they call the Shadow of Soul, feared, untouchable. He looked down at Nyah, his dark eyes intense. Until tonight. For the first time in 8 years, someone threw themselves in front of me. A 27-year-old Jamaican nurse who didn't even know my name tried to shield me with her own body. Nyah finished bandaging him and stepped back slightly, but he caught her wrist gently. "Why did you do it?" he asked. "I didn't think," she admitted. "I just reacted. I've seen too many people die in the hospital. I couldn't watch it happen again." A heavy silence fell between them. The rain continued falling around the terrace. Ryu slowly brushed a damp curl away from Nyah's face, his touch surprisingly tender. "You've been fighting alone too," he said. It wasn't a question. "Your grandmother, the debt, the eviction notice." Nyah's eyes widened. "You really did look into me. I know everything about you now, Nyah Sinclair." Before she could respond, Ryu's phone rang again. He answered, listened, and his expression darkened. When he hung up, he turned to her. "My men just checked your apartment. The rival faction found it. They trashed everything. They're actively hunting for the woman who was with me tonight." Nyah felt her blood run cold. Ryu stepped closer, his voice dropping into something possessive and deadly. "You saved my life tonight. Now I'm going to burn their entire world down to keep you safe, whether you want me to or not." Chapter 4. The Price of Protection. Sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse the next morning. Nyah Sinclair stepped out of the guest room, still wearing Ryu Seong-woon's black shirt, her curls loose around her shoulders. The smell of food stopped her in her tracks. On the long dining table was a full Jamaican breakfast, ackee and saltfish, fried dumplings, plantains, and steaming callaloo, the kind of meal she hadn't had time to cook for herself in months. Ryu sat at the head of the table in a fresh black suit, looking calm and completely in control. "You had my food preferences researched?" Nyah asked, voice sharp with disbelief. "I wanted you to eat something familiar," he replied simply. "Sit." Nyah remained standing. "I have a job, Ryu. I have patience. I can't just disappear, and I definitely can't stay locked in this penthouse like some kind of prisoner." Ryu stood slowly and walked toward her. "I already spoke with the hospital director. You've been granted emergency leave, paid, for as long as necessary." Nyah's eyes widened in anger. "You had no right to do that." Before she could say more, Minho entered the room with a serious expression. He spoke quietly to Ryu in Korean. Ryu's face hardened. When Minho left, Ryu turned back to Nyah. "The rival faction is led by Chairman Park, an old enemy. He's put a bounty on your head. They know exactly who you are. The Jamaican nurse who protected me. They believe you're my weakness. Nyah felt the blood drain from her face. So what now? She whispered. You stay here, Ryu said firmly. No leaving the penthouse. No contact with the outside unless it goes through me. I will keep you safe. Nyah stepped back, shaking her head. No, I'm not trading one cage for another. I've spent my whole life fighting to stand on my own feet. I won't let you take that from me, no matter how dangerous it is out there. Ryu moved closer, his presence overwhelming. I lost my sister because I wasn't careful enough, he said, voice low and intense. I will not lose you the same way, not when I just found you. The air between them crackled. Nyah tried to walk past him toward the elevator, but Ryu caught her gently yet firmly, pressing her back against the wall, not with violence, with desperate protectiveness. His face was inches from hers. You don't understand what these people will do to you, he growled softly. I do. Nyah's breathing was fast, her eyes locked on his. I'm not your property, Ryu Seong-woon. No, he replied, his thumb gently brushing her cheek. You're becoming something far more dangerous than that. Before either of them could say another word, Minho rushed back in, looking alarmed. Chairman Park just sent a message. He wants a meeting tomorrow night, and he demands that Nyah be brought as proof that you're willing to negotiate. Ryu's entire expression turned lethal. His hand dropped from Nyah's face as he stared at her with dark, burning intensity. They want to use you against me, he said, voice cold with controlled rage. I will never let that happen, but if we don't play this carefully, they will destroy everything. Chapter 5. The Meeting Trap. The next day passed in a blur of tension inside the penthouse. Ryu Seong-woon spent hours locked in strategy meetings with Minho and his most trusted men. Nyah watched from a distance as maps, photos of Chairman Park, and security plans covered the long table. Eventually, Ryu called her over. You will attend the meeting tonight, he said, but you will not be at the table. You'll stay in a secured room nearby with heavy protection. I won't let them get anywhere near you. Nyah crossed her arms, her Jamaican accent growing stronger with frustration. So I'm just supposed to sit quietly while you risk your life? And then what, Ryu? When this is over, you'll let me go back to my job, my apartment, my life? Ryu's jaw tightened. He stepped closer. I can't make that promise. The words hung heavy between them. Later that evening, Ryu led Nyah into his private study, a room she hadn't seen before. On one wall were framed photos. In the center was a picture of a smiling young Korean woman, no older than 19. My sister, Ryu said quietly. Hae-won. Nyah's heart softened as she looked at the photo. She was the only person who ever teased me, he continued. After she was killed, I shut everything out. Power became my only purpose. He turned to face Nyah. Until you crashed into my car that night, you make me want more than revenge, Nyah. You make me want something dangerous, a future. The air between them thickened. Ryu slowly cupped her face with both hands, his thumb brushing her lip. They leaned in, breaths mingling, hearts racing. Nyah pulled away at the last second, stepping back. I can't, she whispered, voice trembling. Not when everything is this chaotic. Not when I don't even know who I am in your world. Ryu didn't push, but the hunger in his eyes didn't fade. A few hours later, as they prepared to leave for the meeting, Minho entered with a grave expression. Chairman Park is spreading word in the underworld. He's calling Nyah your weakness. Some of our own men are starting to question whether having her here endangers the entire organization. Nyah felt a chill run down her spine. Before she could respond, her burner phone, one Ryu had given her for emergencies, vibrated with a new message. She glanced at it while Ryu was speaking to Minho. The message was from an unknown number. Come alone tonight, and I will spare Ryu Seong-woon. Stay with him, and both of you will die. Nyah stared at the screen in horror, her hands beginning to shake. At that exact moment, Ryu walked back into the room. "Is everything all right?" he asked, studying her face with sharp concern. Nyah quickly hid the phone behind her back, forcing a small smile. "Yes," she lied. "Everything's fine." But inside, her mind was racing. Chapter 6. Lines in the Sand. The armored convoy moved through the city like a funeral procession. Inside the lead Maybach, Nyah Sinclair sat beside Ryu Seong-woon, her hands tightly clasped in her lap. The threatening message still burned in her mind. Ryu studied her profile. "You've been quiet since we left," he said. "Tell me what's wrong." Nyah forced a small smile. "Just nervous, that's all." The convoy arrived at an abandoned luxury warehouse by the river. Ryu positioned Nyah in a secured side room with 4 armed guards and a live video feed of the main meeting area. "Stay here," he ordered softly. "No matter what you see, do not leave this room." As soon as he left, Nyah watched the feed with her heart in her throat. Chairman Park, an older man with cold, calculating eyes, sat across from Ryu. His voice dripped with mockery. "So this is why the great shadow of Seoul has grown soft. A Jamaican nurse. How charming. I'll make you a deal, Ryu. End this war between us. Hand the girl over as collateral, and I'll let you keep your empire." Nyah's stomach twisted as she watched Ryu's face remain ice-cold. In the side room, her burner phone vibrated again with another message from Park's people. "Last chance. Come to me alone, or watch him die tonight." Nyah's hands shook. She quickly wrote a short note on a piece of paper. "I'm sorry. I have to try to save you. Nyah." She slipped toward the door. When one of the guards turned away, she managed to sneak out. She didn't get far. Ryu suddenly appeared in the hallway, his expression thunderous. He had left the meeting the moment he sensed something was wrong. He caught her arm and pulled her into a private corner room. "What the hell are you doing?" he growled. Nyah's eyes filled with tears. "I got another message. Park said if I go to him alone, he'll spare you. I can't watch you die because of me, Ryu. Not when I'm the one who got into the wrong car." Ryu's face changed. For the first time, real fear flashed in his eyes. He pulled her against him, cupping her face with both hands. "I already lost someone I loved," he said, voice rough with emotion. "I will not lose you too. You are not a sacrifice. You are mine to protect." Before Nyah could respond, Ryu kissed her. It was desperate, deep, and full of everything they had been holding back: fear, desire, and a connection neither of them expected. Nyah melted into him, kissing him back with equal passion. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ryu rested his forehead against hers. "We do this together," he whispered. "No more running." Suddenly, gunshots erupted from the main warehouse area. Chaos exploded. Ryu immediately pulled Nyah behind him, drawing his gun with deadly speed. "Stay behind me," he said, voice now ice-cold and commanding. "Tonight ends with either their blood or ours." Final chapter, saved by the wrong door. Gunfire echoed through the warehouse as Ryu Seong-woon moved like a shadow, keeping Nyah Sinclair protected behind him. His men quickly engaged Chairman Park's forces in a fierce but controlled battle. Ryu was ruthless and precise. Every shot he fired was meant to end the threat. Within minutes, the ambush collapsed. Chairman Park was taken down, and his remaining men surrendered or fled. When the smoke cleared, Ryu turned to Nyah. She had a small cut on her cheek from flying debris, but she was alive. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. "It's over," he whispered against her hair. "They won't touch you again." The next few days were a whirlwind. Ryu personally paid off Nyah's entire $28,400 medical debt. He also cleared her 3 months of overdue rent and bought the entire apartment building, then placed the deed in her name as a gift. But more importantly, he gave her back her freedom. "You can return to your job," he told her one quiet evening on the penthouse terrace. "I won't stop you, but I hope you'll come back to me every night." Nyah looked up at him, tears in her eyes. "I don't want to go back to a life without you in it," she admitted, "but I also don't want to lose myself." Ryu smiled, a real, rare smile. "Then we build something new, together, on your terms." Weeks later, Nyah returned to the hospital part-time, but now with proper support and security. Ryu began loosening his iron grip on the underworld, slowly moving toward more legitimate business. All because one brave Jamaican nurse had entered the wrong car on a rainy night. In the end, what started as a mistake became the greatest blessing of both their lives. Nyah Sinclair didn't just save Ryu Seong-woon that night, he saved her right back. And together, they proved that sometimes the wrong door leads you exactly where you were always meant to be. The end. Outro. If you enjoyed Nyah and Ryu's story, let me know in the comments. Team Nyah or Team Ryu? Who stole your heart more? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. New Afro-Korean romance stories drop every week. Next week, we have a brand new story about a single mother and a Korean professor who discovers a life-changing secret. Until then, remember, sometimes the wrong turn becomes the greatest love story of your life. See you soon.